Deadly Desire, Day 10. Thank you so much for joining us once again for our ongoing Fox 5 coverage of the Brendan Banfield murder trial happening now in Northern Virginia. Brendan back on the stand today, day 2 of testimony, basically telling his version of the day of the murder today while on the stand, pointing the finger at his wife and seemingly upsetting some family members in the process. Bob Barnard out in the courthouse once again, joins us now live. Bob, another dramatic day on the stand.
Yeah, it was, Chris, and the reaction from the family sitting just in front of me in the courtroom. This is Christine Banfield's mother, father, and sister were sitting there, and as he's telling his story, they were kind of shaking their heads. The dad was putting his arm around his grown daughter, who at times was putting her head back, hearing this account from Brendan Banfield, which is really the first time he's ever told his story. And that's one of the things in cross-examination today that prosecutor Jenna Sands pointed out. She's like, you're describing yourself as Mr. Innocent here, but you've never told your story to anybody, to the police, to prosecutors. He said, I was planning to testify at Juliana's trial, but she never went to trial. She pled guilty to manslaughter. She had been charged with second-degree murder. So he kind of was indicating like he had wanted to tell this story, but he never had. So this was really today, almost 3 years after the killings, was the first time we heard from Brendan Banfield himself about what happened that day, February 24th, 2023, at their home in Reston. And he basically told his side of the story under direct examination from his defense attorney, John Carroll. And then when Jenna Sands hit at him, she was trying to poke holes in his story. It was interesting. But the bottom line is the defense rested today, and tomorrow morning the jury will get the closing arguments, the closing statements from the prosecution and the defense, and then it'll be in their hands. The ball will be in their court, and so the jury's going to get the case tomorrow, Chris. There could be a verdict by this time tomorrow. And we'll see how that goes.
Bob, I know we're going to play some sound from today's hearing in just a second, but one of the things that upset the family, from what I understand, is basically Brendan's accusations that his late wife was into these violent fantasies and setting up these, the FetLife affair and inviting these strangers into the house. My question for you, Bob, has there been any other, for lack of a better phrase, proof that this was what she was into? Did prosecutors or defense attorneys have any other witnesses or ex-lovers or friends who could corroborate his version of events?
No, and the prosecution in their cross-examination, in the questioning of Banfield, but primarily so that the jury could hear this, said that there's no history. The prosecution is saying this. There's no history that Christine Banfield ever did any Google searches for anything like unsavory at all. So they're trying to counter what Brendan Banfield had said, and what he said was years ago when they were living in New York, because she, as a registered nurse. She does, or did before she was killed, pediatric ICU, but had also worked with sexual assault survivors. He was claiming that she had some past interest in bondage and S&M and violent sex play, and that she had had issues in the past that he suggested she get counseling for. So that was a yes. And when he was saying all this, the parents of Christine Banfield and her sister were just freaking out in front of me. I mean, they were quiet, but I could see their body language. But interesting, at one point during the testimony, Brendan Banfield said he'd never heard of FetLife. This was all news to him. But then it came out later that, yes, in his past, he had kind of had some interest in other fetish type websites, not FetLife. So I think a little confusing for the jury. I was talking to a producer from a network, kind of like a documentary series, who said that she had in the past interviewed a former lover of Brendan's, who had said he had expressed interest in getting rid of his wife then. So that didn't go to the jury. That was not, I don't know why that former supposed lover wasn't brought into the picture here, but it's been out there in the past that, you know, Brendan's the driver of this thing, not Christine and some weird fetish interest that she might have. So we'll see. The jury, gets to hear only what's presented before them. But her family, Christine's family, was clearly not happy to hear that part of his story.
All right, Bob, I know you put together some highlights from today's events in court, so let's take a listen.
I heard the sounds of, I would say, moaning, as well as sound of skin-on-skin contact.
And what did you think was going on at that point?
Sex.
Why didn't you call 911 at that point?
I believe that it was an affair that was going on at that point. While I was walking up the stairs, I did unholster my weapon, and I angled my body going up the stairs so that I was facing the bedroom door. The sound was coming from the master bedroom area. Pushing the door open with my right foot revealed Christine, and who I now know is Joseph Ryan. They were on the floor.
Had you ever seen Joseph Ryan before?
I had never seen Joseph Ryan before. Christine was, I would describe as nude and on all fours. He was clothed, and he was looking directly at me as I opened the door. Basically, as soon as I went in the room, it appeared that Christine tried to get up. I said, "Police." I was holding my gun forward. He said that she was his, and that she gave herself to him. She gave herself to me is what he said.
Okay.
Christine kind of yelled or moaned, or both. I thought that she was being injured, being stabbed.
Did you see him stab her?
I couldn't see Christine's neck or face really at that point. He did a very forceful stab towards Christine, landed on her stomach on the ground. Joe, now like on his knees, kind of facing Christine, of which I saw him do a downward stabbing stroke, and that's when I fired at him. He moved backwards a little bit away from Christine. At that point, she was holding her neck, and she told me that she couldn't see. And I asked her to let me see. I could see the wound on the right side of her neck, but she pulled her hand from underneath mine and put her hand back on top of my hand, and put pressure on my hand, I think indicating that she wanted more pressure on the wound. Christine told me that she was bleeding out, and that she was sorry and that she loved me. It was at this point that there was another shot. And I looked up and I saw that Juliana had my other firearm, and I was stunned that Juliana had shot. She was coughing, and blood had come out of her mouth. I told her I was going to roll her on her side. My finger went inside of her neck, and that made me realize how badly she was hurt.
So, Chris, what you're hearing there, a lot of the typing is actually the court reporter taking down the transcription there. And those white flashes are because, I mean, it took maybe an hour and a half to tell that story, and there were pauses and other questions. And so we kind of wanted to kind of splice together as best we could the clear telling of his side of the story of coming home that morning because the nanny, Juliana, had said, hey, the daughter and I were getting ready to go to the zoo, but there's a strange car in the driveway and a man just walked in. And so that's when he says he came in, went to the house, was hearing these noises upstairs, and kind of told the rest of the story there.
So, Bob, the one thing I wanted to acknowledge, too, is Brendan mentioned all of the things that his wife said to him after he had come home and found her so seriously injured. And prosecutors kind of called him out on that a little bit, correct?
Yeah, Jenna Sands was like, wait a minute. So she's telling you all these things, and yet, you're saying you didn't stab her, and you'd already shot Joseph Ryan. So she's telling you these things with 7 deep, fatal, which turned out to be fatal stab wounds to her neck. And he was like, yeah, she was a little hoarse, and her voice was growing weak. But, if you believe the prosecution's case, and if you believe the au pair, pardon me, this guy is unbelievable. Like, to have allegedly done this and then to be wanting to get up onto the witness stand and tell this story, if the jury believes that's a lie, and if that's the truth that it's a lie, he is something else.
All right. So, Bob, the second Friday in a row, we'll be back in court tomorrow for closing arguments. So this case could be in the hands of the jury by the end of the day?
Yeah, probably by midday. I mean, the opening statements weren't that lengthy, at least not by the prosecution. Now, they're going to want to tie in all the evidence. Both sides will. So, yeah, the jury is definitely going to get this case. Will they be sent to the jury room to begin their deliberations? Or the judge initially said they were not going to meet on Fridays, but they're trying to kind of get this thing going. This is the end of week 3, and we lost Monday, Tuesday of this week. But tomorrow, the judge was saying yesterday that they got to end at 4:30 tomorrow. So I guess it depends on when they get the case. Will the judge say, okay, like start your deliberations, or let this all sink in and come back Monday to deliberate? But if the closing arguments are done in a couple of hours, and it's, say after lunch at 1:30, 2 o'clock or whatever, that they could come back and start deliberating, who knows? There could actually be a verdict tomorrow.
All right. Well, Fox 5, of course, will have complete coverage on air and online. You can find all the latest developments on the Brendan Banfield murder trial on Fox 5 DC's YouTube page, Fox Local, and streaming live on Fox 5 DC's TikTok page. Thank you so much for joining us once again. We'll be back tomorrow.